Let's just look at the same area.
Yeah,
I'm looking at the pyramid.
every once in a while, I watch the beginning and I'm just like staring at
Next time, we might need to do a short intro song. Welcome to the Sedona Soul Sister Show, down-to-earth discussions on metaphysics, paranormal, and spiritual topics.
And the Sedona Soul Sisters are myself, Roslyn Reynolds, my business partner, Ivory Lanou, and our cheery, sweet that we all laugh all the time. We love that part. Carrie Ann Russell. And we have offices here in Sedona, Arizona, where we see clients from all over the world.
And today our topic is called to serve. So if you have any questions, you can put it in the chat box and we'll answer while we're on, or you can leave them after if you watch the replay and we'll get back to you.
Yes, we will.
Because we're always here.
Sometimes people are shy and they'll come in, they'll create a conversation on our Facebook page and go, I watched the show and I wondered about this.
Mm-hmm.
So it's okay.
That's a good way to come in on it too, you know?
We don't care.
We're checking all the things that are going on all the time. I've got to hand it to Ivory, boy. She's on top of that social media. And she knows what she's doing. I, on the other hand, am pathetic at that.
That's why we have a partnership. So, called to serve. All three of us were called to serve. What does that mean? I think having an inner knowing, it starts with an inner knowing that you're here to do something specific, and usually that's helping people in a big way, in your own way. What it looks like can be such across the board. It doesn't mean you have to go out and be a minister or devote your life to humanitarian work. You want to talk about that?
I think the most important aspect that we all need to kind of just keep in mind, and it would be nice to have some feedback on this from our audience, is you do have this sense that, like, hey, I came here with the job. I know I'm supposed to be helping or serving in some format.
Mm-hmm.
And the format that takes seems to be the conflict for a lot of people. I always feel like, in my case, from the time I was little, I was always feeling sort of, for lack of a better word, I think my angels have to give me a little push to get me moving a lot of times. So I always felt like I was being what I called nagged nicely a little bit. But these constant thoughts of, okay, you need to do this, you need to call this person, you need to be in touch here, you need to. And so it really is compelling.
Mm-hmm.
It's very compelling.
Yeah.
And it's not like you get to ignore that.
Usually when
You
people
can try.
We tried.
the majority of people who are called to serve, who come to us, are in that place where they know they're supposed to be doing something. They know they don't want to do what they've been doing, but they have no idea what the next thing is. And so something important to know too, that I didn't know, I wouldn't know till I'd gone through this far of life, but what you're called to do can change. So I was called to do Qigong medical energy healing, did that for long. Then I was called to get involved in mental health. Then I was called to do this work full time instead of secretly behind the scenes, my alter ego. It happens to all of us. I think either your thrust of your work changes or the specialty changes, or sometimes you change completely what you were doing.
Yeah, for me, it was when I was little, I always knew that I wanted to help people. I would always help people, or people would always come to me and say, I have this issue. Can you help me with it? Or I was always for the underdog. Like if you were picking on somebody, I saw something the other day and this girl drops her backpack and comes charging in to save somebody. Like, that was me.
That was
God
me
forbid you pick
too.
on somebody smaller than you. I'm going to take you out.
Yeah, I really had, like, I could never let the underdog just be picked on. That was
Yeah.
never, and
That was so hard.
And even as a kid, my dad would be like, "You gonna try to save the world now?" You know, he
Yeah.
used to say that even when I was a little kid. Then later, when I was working in mental health, have you saved the world yet? Now my answer is always like, just the people I come in contact with. You know,
I'm working on it.
And that kind of brings up an aspect of this, I think, because, you know, a lot of us say to ourselves, and I hear people say this all the time, so I know it's pretty common. What can one person do? I mean, you know, one person can do a lot. You know, one person changes the thought process of millions of people.
it's that ripple
Billions.
effect.
Yeah. So don't ever doubt that, you know, if you feel compelled to do something, if you know it's the right thing for you to be doing, if you know you have to ask questions that, you know, you don't always feel comfortable asking, but you're being driven to ask those things and want to know why things are happening. That was always my thing when I was growing up. I was going, but why? But why? I mean, drove people nuts. But I still have that. I still have that desire to know why things are being, you know, handled the way they're handled,
I
things
do
are
too.
going the way they're going, and what can I do to make a difference for people? Because a lot of people are struggling too. I mean, there's just a lot of people. I've really noticed it in the last maybe 10 years. People struggling with this feeling of my life doesn't have any worth. Well, your life has tremendous worth, but you have to decide to implement what you feel called to do. And there is a call to service. It's kind of like a trumpet.
And sometimes people's what that we call mission, or their would you say their I don't know, we'll just say mission, is just going about living your life. How you go about living your life, your frequency, and how what you just being around you, the things you say and do are affecting everyone you come in contact with. I do think that's at least a secondary mission for everybody called to serve. Every single
I think
person
that's
called
true.
to serve. But some people, it is their mission. So sometimes I have people come in who are like, I'm doing this, but I keep feeling like I need to help people, and I don't really think I'm helping people. And then when I look into it, I'll find out, no, what you're doing right now, just because you're not getting the feedback directly, you really are making a huge difference. And sometimes it's they've been in a career for a long time, but they don't see it as a service, but it really is, or the way that they're living, just them.
Right. For me, a lot of my clients that come to me, and it's probably because I was similar. Being a mom, I was a young mom, so I raised my sons. I gave them my entire life. And then I was like, and then they're grown and they don't need me anymore. And I'm like, well, what am I supposed to be doing now? So I've seen a lot of clients come to me with that same thing.
I think there's a lot of people, that feel that way. But the bottom line is, right now in this world, just look around. I mean, you're bound to see something that could use your energy, your frequency of love, kindness, compassion, your motivation to do good works and to help, because there's just a lot going on. And it's a great time to start to think about how you feel kind of compelled. I laugh all the time. You know, if anybody had told me that I would be sitting at a desk doing what I do as a profession, I would have probably laughed. I mean, I would have gone, "You're nuts." I mean, but when you are constantly being called on to help and to bring people your energy of healing, of helping, of bringing information that they're struggling with and they can't see clarity. And of course, I mean, I say bringing because it's not me. I'm just the antenna, I'm just the messenger who's receiving your information. That for some reason, we don't seem to receive our own information really well.
No, not so great.
Or receiver and say,
We were just talking about this yesterday, how when something's happening and you get upset, like you were worrying about your parents because you got that call that was
Oh my
ominous,
gosh,
but it ended
yes.
up being nothing. How even as a psychic, like you might go to the worst case scenario and then you're like, am I getting that psychically? Or am I just being a worrywart?
Right.
That's why no matter how psychic you are, you have to have somebody you trust to go to and say, can you just help me get my feet back on the ground here and
Yeah.
take a look at this for me?
I believe that's very important for people that are looking for trusting themselves, but also to always have somebody, because in a situation like that, your ego could be very intense and be very involved.
And just to unfortunately, count on your own input sometimes when you do have concern and those negative thoughts start coming in. I mean, it's really crucial to have confirmation from someone who's a little more detached. And that is part of the work that we do is we have empathy, we have compassion, but we have to remain a little bit detached so that we can actually work with the energy that needs to be brought forth.
I know if I start sobbing, I find it very hard to pick up on anything. That's a good reason to remain detached. So let's talk about, because I think it can be very different for each person, like for myself, call to serve. I think I knew at 18 that I was supposed to do this work. It was very clear to me, and I ran away from it. I said, nope, that's not what I always wanted to be a singer. Just let me be a singer. Just let me do my thing. And, was married young, like you were, had my daughter young. So that took up 10 years and more with her, more than 10. I did not stop at age 10 with my daughter, mothering her, let me just say. But then again, it was put right in my face in my early 30s. And I was like, nope, no, I want nothing to do with that. No. So I knew all this time, I knew in my heart what I was supposed to be doing, but I come from a conservative family and there were other things I was interested in. I thought I should do that. My life would be smoother and easier if I just did something more normal. So I did, but all the time I was hearing my angels talking to me, and Roz and I were talking about this earlier. She said, can I talk about how they pestered me? And I'm like, yes, because sometimes angelic messages can be very annoying, and they know that. They're probably laughing as I say this, but they'll tell you to do things that you're not prepared to do, that maybe you're too sick or you're dealing with a really terrible time in life. You're just not prepared. They don't get it. They'll just keep telling you in your head over and over and over, you need to write that book, you need to go take this class. Why aren't you doing this? And so, yes, that gets a little annoying, but we get these messages for a reason. And that's how you're led to the first step. All you want to do is just find that first step and just keep following it to the next step. Don't focus on what is my mission, but just follow what your angels are guiding you toward, because that's the fast way. You'll get there. You already know. You already have a passion for it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think too, if you have the kind of personality where you tend to resist, I'll take that. I definitely have to be prodded a lot of times to do things, and I can be incredibly stubborn. And we were just laughing about this because when Terry Ann first came in to see us here, she had been nagged, as I would call it, to come in, and she didn't want to come in because she was
It was uncomfortable.
Yeah, it was pushing her
to step out on a limb.
Yeah, step out and really talk about what she was experiencing, and she was not up for that. And I've certainly had that experience too, where I was going, "Oh no, I am not doing that."
Yeah.
But in the end, all that resistance doesn't change the fact that you feel a compulsion to do the work that you were sent here to do. And it doesn't have to be a career situation. It doesn't have to be that you're doing it in a professional environment, but knowing that you have abilities that help people, that becomes pretty overwhelming after a while. I mean,
Mhm.
I tried a lot of times to say, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to go over here and do this job. And I would go do that job for a while. And then invariably, I would be guided back and plunked down in the position where I needed to be doing this work. So it's pretty powerful.
I was called to do mental health work, and I did it. And I loved it. And then all of a sudden, I realized I had the same similar feeling I had when I worked in radio. And I thought, okay, it's been great helping people their business, but I'm sure I can help people in a much more meaningful way. So I went into mental health. But then I reached a point where I'm like, this doesn't feel like enough anymore. I need to help people on a deeper level than this. And my angels are like, now you have to leave mental health. I'm like, no, I don't want to. I was really stubborn, but a big surprise. No, I don't want to. And they're like, it is time. And they were so adamant. They're like, you don't get to push this away anymore. So here I am.
I like that we think we have some control over it.
They're like, hello, we're
I'm
the
always
angels.
like, they're up there like, you think you're calling the shots.
That's saying
I think
we
it's
make
very
people make plans and God laughs. Something
I
like
always
that.
say God had a sense of humor.
Oh,
But it's true because you hear their guidance. Again, I was like you. I was guided to help people. So what does that look like to me? Social work. I was going into social work. I was going back to school. That's where I was going. And then this. And it totally threw me out of my comfort zone.
Yes.
And again, resistance. You resist it and resist it and resist it. And then you just surrender.
Now I feel silly. Like I think what would life have been like if I'd just given in when at 18 I knew I was supposed to do this?
Mhm.
What would it have been like? Interesting.
Well, and I think we have to be realistic too. This is a time right now where this is really important work. Not that it wasn't always, but right now it's intensely important because of the circumstances, the situations, and the experiences that people are living every day, and their struggle with whatever's going on spiritually, physiologically, etc. But in addition to that, there is, and you mentioned it, there is the ego. We get into this place of ego like, oh, I'm going to have to suddenly be visible. And I want to be visible as this profession over here. I don't want to be visible
Yes.
in this.
Yes.
And that, I think that it was for a lot of people who have, really, really intense gifts, that's a huge struggle. Because for me, it was, I did this work for a long time, but I did it very invisibly.
Both of us.
Because
I
I
never
just
used my name, my face.
Yeah. wasn't ready
Mm-mm.
to be coming out.
Coming
And
out
now
of spiritual closet.
It really is. It really is equivalent.
So.
It takes a lot of guts to come out and say, I'm a psychic. Or like we were talking about earlier, I see dead people. I'm talking to angels. Deal with it.
Right.
It's pretty ironic, because really, if you tap into the deep spiritual side of our nature, that is a very comforting place to be in
Yes.
alignment with your guidance and your angels and
So many people get messages too, and they just aren't
yeah.
open to always receiving them, or they know something's different, or they can feel spirit around them. I have a lot of clients that feel, they may not see, but they feel, I feel something. Always like that's your angels and your guides. They're communicating with you,
Mhm.
you have to be open to it. So
I think it's a little more difficult here too, in our country because the culture, the mindset of the culture. We have a very this isn't a business where you're making billions of dollars. It's like any other spiritual work. You balance how you do the work with your commitment to that, as opposed to thinking about materialism all day long, thinking about the acquisition of things. And in our culture, that's the majority of the culture.
Yes, it is.
Bigger,
So
faster, better.
you have to find that balance between, okay, I have to function in this world, in this culture. I need to make a living. I need to be able to, support the work that I do and myself in the process. But at the same time, I know that I'm called to do this work, and there is, the commitment to that sometimes takes precedence over any thought of acquisition of things. So it's a balancing scale.
And I think that can happen in mundane jobs too. I know it can because I think about that at the age I am now where I can see retirement age coming. And I think back to how many years I worked in mental health helping low income and homeless people. And let me tell you, the pay is not high at all, extremely low. And I never ever thought about savings or really not much at all or retirement, the future. I just those people needed my help and I needed to be there. But then the realities come in at some point and it's like, well, oh yeah, I gotta live in this human world too, don't I? I'm gonna have to have some money for retirement. Can't do that anymore.
Feeling compelled to help people and to do the work and everything is like any other commitment that you make. You have to find the sort of set point of that, the balance point of that,
where your needs are met.
Yeah. So it's really important to realize that when we do feel this call to service, we have to be a little, I guess, realistic about how what we do is going to be received, and who's going to be comfortable with that, and how we're going to facilitate making a living. And it's an interesting scale, that balance scale, because I know a lot of very gifted people who would never do this as a profession, but that doesn't mean they can't be out there doing it and helping people all the time. So it's pretty important to get your priorities, I guess, in order.
Just because you have a gift, no matter how powerful it is, does not mean that you're under any obligation to use it professionally. I think as long as you're just helping people in the way you feel moved to, the way that you have the gifts for, that's all that matters.
Yeah. Sometimes it could be just listening to somebody that needs to talk.
Very true.
And we've talked about this before, but I'll say it again. Most people will never tell you the effect that your presence or your words has had on them. If you've had a few people tell you, that's the tip of the iceberg. It's amazing how something you say can really resonate with a person, and then they make big life decisions based on what you said that really helps them shift out of something they needed to get out of.
And see clearly.
Change clearly, change within themselves, or just see life better clearly. You can make big changes just going about your life.
I think another thing that, and we mentioned this earlier, another thing that's really important is that process of when we do have children, sharing that commitment with them. Every person has their own journey, their own walk. And many times our children come here and they don't have that same call, but you can still teach them through example and teach them with your words about how important it is to be focused on sharing and doing good works. And I see more and more of this now, which is, I think, really a good thing. I see people coming forward in these situations where, there's a lot of children now that, because of the demands of their parents having to work, etc. I mean, they need somebody to talk to. They need somebody to be there, to just be kind of sending out that energy of, hey, it's cool, everything's okay. So it's an important time to realize that even the things that maybe we don't think are important are very important as part of our sort of job from God. That's what I was called.
The job from God.
My job
You
from
work
God.
for God. Sounds like a priest.
When I was really little, I still hear, only in this ear for some reason, but sometimes just in my head too. But I hear my angels talking to me. I hear, my guidance, and I always feel like that's an incredible blessing in my life, because the one thing that I noticed over the years is when I would actually start to veer off and go off what I was supposed to be doing, I would hear that, this is not your life, this is not your focus. And I really feel like there are a lot of people out there that do hear that. Maybe they don't hear it in their ear like I do, but they hear it in their soul. They hear it in their heart.
Yes.
They hear it in their head.
As a thought. It's usually
Yeah.
as a thought. Yeah.
So when those things start to happen, and that is kind of a call to service. So when those things start to happen, really, take a really acknowledging recognition of that, because sometimes the way we are called is not what we would have expected. So,
And I think when you start hearing messages like that, you can know that you're at a crossroads, a pivotal point in life where you could follow your angel's guidance and do what you're supposed to be doing, or you could take a real sharp left turn and go far afield. And gosh, I've done that twice because I thought I knew better and hit some really terrible bumpy off-road process that took years to get out of. So I think you especially need to pay attention when you start hearing you're off course, this isn't what you're meant to do, that kind of thing. You're at a pivotal point and you're taking the wrong turn.
yeah, I think you said this earlier, Terry Ann, when you were talking about, we think we're in control.
That's what they always
We
tell
think,
me.
yeah. We think, yeah.
You think you're in control, girl.
Well, in your case, I mean, it's been a true drive too. I mean, you've really been driven to get training in specific healing modalities and to, focus on blending and being able to provide whatever people need. I never had any training, but I feel like I'm able to provide what the people who are sent to me need.
But I did ignore it. I was introduced to Reiki 20 years ago when my boys were little, and I was like, nobody got time for that. I got 3 little baby boys. Until they sent me Sophia, no, well, now you're gonna do Reiki.
Yeah, so we couldn't get you to cooperate before, but this will get her.
And I remember going to, it was like a free Reiki workshop at Barnes & Noble with my mom, and them talking about feel your hands and do you feel anything when you put, and I was like,
whoa,
oh my gosh.
Do I
really?
feel something? Wow.
I don't have time for that. So.
Well, your story is really an amazing testimonial, I think, to, not even looking in that direction. You were completely going in a whole other career direction.
Yeah.
And then suddenly, intervention, and you have a very small baby that's very sick and needs a lot of energy work, and you couldn't find anybody to do it. So, boy, they got you.
They did.
Will you do it
I
now?
always say she got me. Right? We go there now. Now you'll go.
Yeah.
So
So
it's funny how you learn something like that and then just tuck it away. Like, I'm not gonna need that. That's not gonna be my focus. Boom.
You can,
Yes.
You can wrap it up anytime.
Powerful.
Well, we shall do that then.
Well, think about, I think for those of you out there who are giving some thought to this, think about what you are really feeling about your motivation and about what you feel called to do, because it is a call.
We need lots of people stepping into those callings.
Yep.
ASAP.
So we'd like to thank you for watching our show, the Sedona Soul Sisters show. None of us are TV star kind of people at this point, but we love sharing with you. And it's really wonderful that people want at this point to figure out what that calling is to serve. If you have any other questions about what we do, please go to our website, SedonaSoulSisters.com.
And tune in next week. Our topic will be twin flames. And I know there's going to be a lot of excitement about that one.
You don't want to miss it.
Yeah, it's not going to be quite what you think, but you'll enjoy it. So we hope that you have an enlightening week, and we will see you next Thursday.
You're sending that
I think we are the comedy show.
We could have a comedy show.